In the name of the Father, and of the Son, and of the Holy Spirit. Amen. This Sunday bears the attribution of several important keynotes. First of all, it is the second Sunday in the holy season of Lent, which is the preparatory season to the festival of Easter. And secondly, it happens to fall on the 16th day of March, which is the anniversary and therefore the commemorative date of the martyrdom of the Cathars at Montségur, which was pretty much the conclusion of the terrible bloody Albigensian crusade waged against our spiritual ancestors, the Cathars, I believe 1244, when the last great fortress fell, and then occurred the burning of the Cathar perfecti on the field of the burnt ones at the bottom of the castle mountain. And of course it is also the day before the great, shall we say, traditional folk festival of the Irish people, the Feast of St. Patrick, which is tomorrow. And I think all good Gnostics, as well as other people, should definitely partake of various green-colored liquids at that time. Hopefully not of, I don't know, some sort of health food nature of mixed spinach or something like that. So something that has in it what is called the spirit. So there are all of these festivals to consider. And by the way, we have, as you have probably seen on coming in, or have seen on Friday at our special commemorative service, a singularly beautiful exhibit of photographs of Montségur that were taken by our good friend Winston Wiggins, who is the last one of our number who has been to that secret place, secret and sacred place. And let's see, about what time were you there?
October.
In October of last year. So please look those over. It'll give you a visual image of the sacred place itself. Now, considering all of these, and we have, had a special commemorative service of solemn Vespers of the Martyrs this Friday, so we need not repeat what we have said there at that time. But let's just keep in mind that every tradition has its martyrs, and that it has been said for a long time that the blood of the martyrs strengthens the tradition, strengthens the church, even as was the case with mainstream Christianity in the case of all the martyrs during the reign of Nero and Domitian and Diocletian and all of those people. So, of course, it is also with us. In addition to that, we may say that as far as St. Patrick is concerned, there are some cute stories about Patricius, who was probably at least in part a Roman, who missionary to Ireland, that he has driven the snakes out of Ireland. And our Irish priest back in Connecticut, Father O'Neill, when I was talking to him last week, said that the Irishmen back in Ireland used to say, when they asked him, well, where did all the snakes go when St. Pat chased them out? He said, they went to America. Which in part, I think, was a put down on the American Irish, there having been always a certain amount of conflict between the Irish and the American Irish. People like to have conflict, that's life. So in any event, and here also, some people I know in the past used to be, why do you mention St. Patrick? He drove out the druids, who maybe were the snakes, I don't know. And said, that makes no difference. The issue is that now he's an archetype. He is a spiritual being of the Irish people, and as such he should be honored. And that is how we have to look at these things. If we are going back into the history of all the saints, and he wasn't nice to the Druids, and I suppose my patron saint, or our patron saint of Hungary, Saint Stephen, in turn did away with the pagans in various ways. Not all of them terribly nice, I'm sure. In Hungary, well, if it happened that way, it happened that way. There again, we have an archetype. He is the patron, he is the founder of the Hungarian kingdom, he is really the symbol of the nation. And that is the way to look at these things. If we are going to start looking at spiritual traditions factually, then we are lost. This is not a factual realm. And this is the realm of archetypes, this is the realm of mystery, this is the realm of the other world. And that needs to be kept in mind. So anyway, probably enough about that. Now then, here we have also, of course, the second Sunday of Lent, and it has really two very remarkable scriptures which were read to us. The first from the Ginza, the great sacred book of the unfortunate Mandaeans, who have even been more decimated in this Iraqi war than they have been before. Really the longest surviving actual Gnostics in the world. The only thing I need to call attention there is his statement that he goes about searching, and he finds, went and found my soul. What are all the worlds to me? I found my soul at it was at the boundary, at the rim of the world. And then from the Gnostic book Pistis Sophia, we have the story of told by Christ's mother, Virgin Mary, of the twin angel who comes to Jesus when Jesus is but a fairly small boy, and when they meet and embrace and become one. So both of these have to do with the mystery of soul. And this is a great one. And I think that many of you are aware that a very similar theme is right at the very beginning of the so-called Red Book of Carl Gustav Jung, which was published a few years ago, where he exclaims in great anguish, meine Seele, wo bist du? My soul, where are you? And then the soul appears and becomes his guide through all of these great and strange transformative journeys. Similarly, the Holy Prophet Mani, praise be to his name, whose icon reposes over here in our sanctuary, had met his, what they call that time and in that tradition, his twin angel 3 times. Once when he was a young adolescent, when the angel came to him and told him that he had a mission to become an important prophet, and the second time when the time had come for him to begin his life's work, and the third time when he was dying in prison, when he came and they became one, and he left for the heavenly realms. So we have important mysteries here that we need to contemplate. In our vernacular, even in religious vernacular, it's sort of, we have we make rather lightly of these mysteries when say, oh my soul, you know. It's like, almost like saying, oh well, I don't know, oh my my pair of shoes. It's sort of something that I have. It's a very unfortunate way of treating such a mystery. It's not so much that we have a soul, but that our soul has us. Hopefully, and we should help it to be in possession of us all as much as possible. And so our inner, no longer physical and no longer personal being is a great mystery to which we need to address ourselves. And we should call upon our soul, our higher self, our true being, to come to us and to overshadow us and to instruct us and to assist us in various ways in which we require. And that this indeed is a very real possibility. And really all of the vernacular expressions and various statements which we have that always make these spiritual beings to be appendages of our physical and our personal selfhood have to be discarded. It's like somebody said, you go to an old cemetery, which I actually like. I see nice old cemeteries with nice gravestones that sort of stand a little bit this way, like that way, as if they had been to St. Patrick's Day. They kind of lean this way and that way, I think they are wonderful places. But we have, the inscription there, here lies buried, I don't know, whoever it is, Paul Johnson, may God rest his soul. His soul, again, as if his soul is sort of an appendage to him, but the real person is down there in the ground. So, these are all symbols of a really rather materialistic kind of attitude that we always have in the culture, even when the culture was much more religious than it is at the present time. And so I would think that the second Sunday in Lent would be an invitation to us to develop a closer relationship with our real soul, with our higher, no longer physical and no longer personal selfhood. Because this is the self that has come, that has emanated from on high, that has come to inhabit our body in this world, and that really is the carrier of the divine spark that is the very center of our being. And we should not identify with our bodies. We should not identify with the physical world. And the world always has some stratagem whereby to confuse us and to lead us, let's say, in astray or in a direction that we shouldn't be led. Sometimes it is this, sometimes it is that. In our era, it is probably primarily the kind of materialism that makes us once again identify with the body. You have to be healthy, you have to eat health food, you have to stuff yourself with vitamins, and you, it's not you, it's your body. It's the clothing that you have put on for this particular lifetime. All right, now, I have nothing against taking care of our clothes. Because they wear out, you have to buy new ones, we have to clean them, various things like that. It's a nice thing to have nice clothes. It's probably a nice thing to have a nice body if we are fortunate enough to have one, but not to identify with it and not to make too much of it. After all, look, this body, whether you are young, they salute you for that. Long ago it was true of me. Or whether you are somewhere in between, or whether you are my age, you are not going to have that body forever, and actually we should be thankful for that. Because after a while it doesn't work so well, it has all kinds of problems, this and that, doesn't look so well. This is not, as the vernacular expression, where it's at. Your body is not where it's at. Not your soul, but the soul. That is where it is at. And so physical things, earthly things, personal things need to be attended to at a certain basic level as well as one can. Like animals that people had or have, have a stable of horses, feed them, chickens similarly, but then you don't spend the rest of life being concerned about them. You have to be concerned about more important things, because otherwise you're earthbound. And that's not a good thing to be. And one speaks about earthbound spirits. Well, we are a spirit. And if we allow ourselves to be earthbound, whether for one reason or the other, whether it is in pursuit of material possessions, in pursuit of health, in pursuit of politics, which after all concerns the physical world and so forth. Again, all of these things we are concerned with what we ought not to be concerned with. Just a little bit maybe, but then put it aside and go to something greater and go to something better. And how wonderful an exclamation it is. I went and found my soul. What are all the worlds to me? In another passage of the Ginza it says, I found my soul, which to me is worth generations and wonders. This is a great treasure, to find and to be in touch with your greater, with your authentic, enduring selfhood. It's probably the greatest gift that we can have in this world. And that is why in the tradition of Moses we are let's say, very moderately and even minimally concerned with so many things that the religions that have been excessively influenced, let's say, by the world are concerned about. Oh, what diet are you going to observe? Well, St. Paul says that he fasts from the world. And that's a very Gnostic statement. It's more important than fasting from pork or anything else in Lent or elsewhere, although people, of course, are allowed to make their own customs and their own rules. And all kinds of other petty things. If you look down the list of sins, and after all, I went to catechism when I was a boy, and reflecting back on, fortunately, I don't remember too much of that stuff. But the ones that I remember, you wonder, why would the Almighty God, be concerned with these petty, silly things that have been made into a sin? It would have to be a neurotic bookkeeper who would keep track of all of these things and be so concerned about it. And I'm sure that there are quite a few neurotic bookkeepers that may act as an archetype for this. So, we have to get past these things. We have to leave them on the road as we are coming to the rim of the world where we see and perceive our soul, and where we can really exclaim, what are all these other things to me? Because a matter of priorities is really the focus of the gnosis. Of various people in various walks of life and in some traditions or none, their priorities are different and from our point of view wrong. People who value physical things greatly, people who value emotional things greatly, people even who value intellectual things excessively. Look, more evil has been done, for instance, for the last 100, 150 years, even 200 years in the world, on the basis of mental obsessions than any other. What was Hitler all about? About a mental obsession. Oh, the Jews, we got to do away with them. It's a mental notion, and there are others. And it's these idols of the mind that people make. And they kill for it, and they torture for it, and they imprison people for it, and they do the most horrible things for an idea which is even less substantial than your body might be. So you see, that's not where it is either. As our late friend from Los Angeles people, Mr. Manly Hall, God rest his soul, was one to quote a Neoplatonic statement, said there is fact, there is truth, and there is reality. And facts have to do, obviously, with physical things. Truth is philosophical notions or philosophical truths, which are also suspect, as he correctly pointed out. Because the mind can, the thinking mind can conjure up balderdash faster than I can say balderdash. And so there is something else, the reality which is beyond these things. We should not be in love with fact, we should not be in love with intellectual formulations which we think are truths. We have to strive for reality. But of course, like always with these things, there are problems. Realities are difficult to express verbally. They are difficult to hold on to conceptually. You can just say, yes, I know this is real. You can tell why you know it is. But why you know is far less important than that you know. That's what's important. That is what distinguishes really the Gnostic orientation from others. And I think this is what we need to do in this regard also, when we are reminded of the reality of our greater nature, of the soul that animates us. The Latin word for it is anima, or animus if you want to be equal about it, and that is what animates us. That is what enlivens us and makes us move around. Like an animal has its own kind of soul. The Jews were good at because in Hebrew theology there are a whole number of souls. There is a nefesh, and there is a ruach, and there is a neshama. Are there any more? I think that's probably pretty much them. And the animal has a certain kind of a soul that animates it, and that makes the animal an animal because it moves around rather than being like a plant which is fixed. where our soul is here to animate us in a more spiritual way. It's to animate us to move toward the Spirit. It's here to animate us so that we move toward the divine, that we recognize our origins in the divine and therefore our ultimate destiny. That's a very, very important thing. Other things, they will move us in other directions. And these other directions will divert us from what we really ought to be moving toward, and which is God. It's the divine. It is our source. It is our ultimate destiny. It is where we came from. It is where we are going. It is who and what we really are. Once we can say with some degree of certainty that we know that, then we really know. Then we know with the knowing of gnosis. And until that time, we should aspire toward that kind of knowing and take advantage of such incidents in life which will lead us to that kind of knowing, and to gently discard the obstacles that may be in our way. That is what our tradition has always done. That's what these wonderful and extinguished tradition of the Cathars had done. And that is what in our own way and in our own time and under our own circumstances we ought to do. And so may the mystery of that which hangs fixed heaven and earth descend upon us and remain with us always.